Thank you. Rob Roberts.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The tragedy which took place at Grenfell in June 2017, claiming 72 lives, can sadly be classed as one of the UK's worst modern disasters. A tragedy which should never have happened. The lives lost are not forgotten by this House, the Government, nor the wider public, and rightly so. In my Delling constituency, we have 3 tower blocks in the town of Flint, in Castle Heights, Bolingbroke Heights and Richard Heights, and they've undergone regular fire assessments and were refurbished in 2015 to include protective measures such as the installation of protective fire doors to all tenants' properties and a refurbished sprinkler system. And this has reassured tenants that their homes are secure and was done to ensure their safety. It's vitally important, Mr Deputy Speaker, that fire safety is treated with the right level of seriousness that may not always have been the case, and it's right that the Government is seeking through this bill to provide the appropriate regulatory framework and statutory requirements to ensure that this happens nationwide. The bill before the House today is part of a wider commitment from the Government to ensure that a tragedy like Grenfell will never happen again, and to reassure the public that all people, wherever they live and whatever their background, should be able to feel safe in their own homes and be protected from fire risks. Introducing this bill, the Government is rightly listening to those who have been affected and is following through on commitments made in our manifesto, which those of us on this side of the House were elected upon and are being seen to fulfil. But I'd like just to take a few moments to discuss the substance of the bill and how it's designed to reduce the risk to people's lives through improved regulatory standards. It does so in 2 ways. The first, by clarifying in law that there's a duty and responsibility for building owners to implement general fire precautions regarding certain structures to ensure their premises are safe to those that live there and the risk of fire is managed and reduced. It's critical that all members of the public feel safe in their own homes. And this bill, by making clear that fire safety is a key priority in the management of buildings and properties, helps to ensure that people are indeed safe in their own homes and not put at risk due to the very fabric of the building in which they live. Which seems like such a bizarre thing to have to say, but so very relevant and prescient in these proceedings. The second way it helps is through providing greater powers to fire and rescue authorities so that they're able to properly enforce the rules and take actions against those responsible who have failed to comply with the fire safety orders. It's very important that there's much greater transparency between those responsible and the fire authorities, so that those who put residents at risk by not following safety regulations can be properly held to account. This also allows individuals who live in these buildings to feel secure, knowing that the framework is in place, which sets out the legal requirements clearly in terms of responsibility for safety, and that there are the correct powers in place to hold those to account for a failure to keep residents safe by not doing the right thing. It will also inevitably help to mitigate against the unfortunate box-ticking mentality that can often get in the way of good maintenance practice. So this bill also amends and reforms the Fire Safety Order 2005 to clarify that those responsible for multi-occupied residential buildings will have to take the appropriate steps and ensure their premises have been assessed continuously and have taken the necessary precautions. Makes it clear that these measures explicitly apply to the structure and external walls of the buildings, including cladding, as well as entrance doors to individual flats that open onto common areas, reducing any legal ambiguity that there was before around safety regulations which may have previously hampered fire services' efforts to tackle unsafe building issues. But whilst this bill is a start, there is further to go, as other honourable members have already mentioned, and I'll refer to the comments of my honourable friend, the member for Bromley and Chislehurst earlier, and also, more especially, the member for Hemel Hempstead, who spoke very early in this debate with particular expertise on the subject. That said, it does seem clear to me that the Government is committed to putting people's lives first, and this bill is a step towards achieving better levels of safety for individuals who need it most through a sensible range of reforms to fire safety laws, and I'm happy, Mr Deputy Speaker, to support this bill at second reading stage.